Yeah, well, what's on my mind this morning is actually a very serious issue. I've been thinking about the bauxite industry.
Oh, my.
It's been on my mind for various reasons. Over the past week or two, we've been hearing a lot about this particular industry, which appears to be in trouble yet again due to falling world bauxite prices. So last week, we had on the opposition spokesman on mining, Philip Paulwell, and he was giving us an idea of where the prices are now. And he said that world bauxite prices are now around $1,700 US a ton, compared to about $2,200 last year. But it's still better than a few years ago, when the industry closed down for several years locally. That was when it was really in the tank, and those prices were about $1,200 US a ton. So now there is talk about a possible shutdown of the Gisco Alpart bauxite plant in Nain, St. Elizabeth. And the reason that I wanted to bring it up this morning, Dennis, is that I feel like a lot of us here in Kingston don't realize the full implications of this industry, what it really contributes to the economy in terms of not just jobs, but economic growth that we're always talking about. Because we live here in town and we don't see with our own two eyes what bauxite contributes to this country on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
But for many people in that part of the country, bauxite is bread and butter. And when we were discussing it in the newsroom last week, I think I said the real way to get this story is to go to St. Elizabeth and talk to people there, because those are the people who are feeling it on the ground. It's like here when you're in town, you see buildings going up all over the place, and you say, wow, construction must be booming. But that's town. What's it like in the rest of the country? Are you seeing with what you see and experience with your own two eyes is what you tend to think is the reality on a larger scale. So because we in town aren't seeing bauxite with our own two eyes, we might discredit the importance of it or not really think of it as much as people who are in St. Elizabeth, who are in the bauxite parishes.
And the multiplier effect that it has, the various markets and such that depend on it.
Exactly, because you have the direct jobs that it contributes, numbering in the thousands, people who work directly for the bauxite company. But then you also have the indirect jobs, which I'm guessing are in the tens of thousands, because you have entire communities built up around this industry. It feeds children and sends them to school. You need supporting services for all the workers who need to buy things like groceries, who need to service their cars. You have schools have to be built to send these children to school, which requires teachers, which requires entire industries and entire communities to support it. When you look at the numbers from the PIOJ, and it always stood out to me. For the past couple of years, it's been standing out. And it's something that you absolutely can't ignore. The contribution of the bauxite sector to the national economy has been huge. And as a nation, yes, we're obsessed with the economic growth numbers. Right. The ECG wants 5 and 4, and indeed we all want 5 and 4. Who wouldn't want that, right? But so far we've managed about 2 and 3. And a lot of that 2% has come from bauxite.
The resurge.
Directly from bauxite. When you look at the breakdown of the sectors that are generating economic growth, since the reopening of the Gisco Alpart plant, bauxite has consistently been number one. Consistently the top generator of economic growth by far. I'm talking 30% growth in the sector for 2018-19. 30% growth 2018-19. Compare that to the other industries. Construction grew by 3%. Agriculture grew by 4%. Hotels and restaurants grew by 3%. Manufacturing grew by 0.3%. And bauxite is there at 30%, the only one that grew by double digits. So you see the impact directly on the economic growth numbers. And that 2% growth that we're finally starting to feel optimistic about that, maybe 5% is in reach. It might not be in 4, but it may be in reach down the line. Mm-hmm. We can get to 3%, and then after that 4%, and the growth can continue. But that 2% growth that we're finally starting to feel optimistic about, that may well be eroded without bauxite.
That's a threat.
We might not be seeing as much as 2% anymore without bauxite. Yeah. Unless some of these other sectors step up. And I don't see which of the sectors is in a position to contribute as much in terms of growth as bauxite has. Because remember, bauxite was coming from zero because the industry was totally shut down.
Right.
So coming from zero to whatever it is, the numbers they were exporting up to last year, it's going to be a large number in terms of economic growth and impact. And we haven't even really been talking about the stalling of the plans for the Gansu Industrial Park and Special Economic Zone, which was another major project that the government had announced. There was an MOU signed and all that. A $3 billion project, which would have been, or would be if it still happens, the largest ever single investment in Jamaica. And that was a minimum $3 billion investment, because I recall the Chinese saying at the time that they were willing to spend twice that if necessary. We're talking about $6 billion, dwarfing any other single investment in Jamaica. Tens of thousands of jobs, billions of dollars in revenue, creating tremendous optimism for this country in terms of where we're going to be in the next 5 years. And so I just wanted to put that in context for you listeners, because I feel like some people don't really care about the industry because you're not seeing it with your own two eyes. It's not in town. It's a country people issue. And I wanted to let you know exactly what's at stake here when we're talking about bauxite. So when we talk to the union leaders and the minister and the opposition spokesman on this program, we're not just talking about a few jobs down in country. We're talking about the economic future of the entire country. And I'm not saying that Jamaica's economic future rests entirely with bauxite, because of course we do have other things going on that are great, but bauxite is a big factor as well, and I don't want anyone to take it for granted or not care about this industry simply because it's not within your direct line of vision. That's what's on my mind.